Today, as we continue, we'll be looking at what happened with Joseph after he got in jail. Although we left off last week saying that Joseph was given in charge of jail that he went to, we shouldn't forget that he's still in jail. Not only that, he's in jail for doing absolutely nothing wrong. Have you ever been in a situation where you got in trouble even though you didn't do anything wrong, and in fact, you were trying to do the right thing? It was downright injustice for Joseph, but he was making the best of it. He could have complained and had a self-pity party, but he didn't do that. In fact, he took his role in prison pretty seriously. So as he was in jail, Joseph met the Pharaoh's cupbearer and the baker. According to scripture, they were in jail because they offended the Pharaoh, but it doesn't tell us exactly what they did. But their crime is irrelevant, because if you make the Pharaoh angry or mad, he has every right and authority to sentence you to jail, torture, or even condemn you to death, because in the old Egyptian time, Pharaoh was regarded as a god in the flesh, and his words were absolute. The captain of the guard in jail assigned these two to Joseph, so he began building a relationship with them, and one night the cupbearer and the baker both had a dream that they could not decipher. And this is where we pick up in our scripture, Genesis 40, 6-8. And it says, when Joseph came to them in the morning, he saw that they were dejected. So he asked Pharaoh's official who were in custody with them in the master's house, "Why do you look so sad today?" "We both had a dream," they answered, "but there is no one to interpret them." Then Joseph said to them, Do not interpretation belong to God? Tell me your dreams. And then they told Joseph the dream that they had, and Joseph interprets it for them. And what Joseph interprets comes true for both of them. And if you want to find out what happened, please read it for yourself afterwards. But what I want to focus on is the attitude that Joseph brought into the situation. Remember that he's in jail, and the cupbearer and the baker is nothing more than fellow prisoners. They had nothing to offer to Joseph. And there was nothing that Joseph would gain through building a relationship with these people, but Joseph willingly did so. He didn't count the days where he would be out of jail, but instead he made the best out of the situation that he was placed in. Rather than looking for a way out of prison, he realized that God has placed him there, and he made the most out of the situation. This sounds all dandy, but you have to remember the situation he was in. He was hated by his brothers, sold to slavery, falsely accused to be in jail, and despite all of that, he still assessed the situation, and instead of being swallowed up by the pity train, he continues to find purpose in the places that God placed him in. God is still not out of the picture. Who does Joseph say that interprets the dream belongs to? He says that God. He doesn't point to himself saying that I have this amazing gift and ability. Joseph gives credit where credit is due. So what about you? When things are not going your way, how do you deal with it? I'm going to ask that question again. I want you to think about it. When things are not going your way, how do you deal with it? How do you deal with the woes that happens in your life? When things are not the way you've imagined and hoped it to be? When it seems like you are in your bottom and things are continuing to not go so well? Whether if it is something that you've caused for yourself to be in a bad situation, or it was a situation where you didn't want it to happen but it did, in either the scenario, how do you deal with it? Scripture is very clear that being a Christian isn't an immunity to bad things happening. In fact, Scripture confirms that trials do and will come. We don't have control of things that happens in our lives, but what we do have control is how we deal with it. Yes, you and I are going to be, or perhaps you're in a place where you didn't plan for you to be. And my question is that, are you making the best of it, or are you simply playing the victim? Too often we place the victim, we play the victim rather than trusting in God and His knowledge of allowing those circumstances to happen and making the best of any situation that is given. I truly believe that we are called to make the best out of any situation, because it does show and reveal about our faith and how we deal with the troubles that comes in our lives. My prayer is that you would deal with it according to how Scripture would want you to deal with it, to be understanding, to hold on to God and know that He is in control even when things are not going the way that you have hoped it to be.